Welcome to Radio Static Productions. Here's Chapter 2 of Sammy Spencer, Interview with Danger, titled Singing the Blues. Sammy strolled into the Marquee lounge and was met by delicious smells, laughter, and a big hug from Duke. He smiled and asked Sammy, "What brings you here?" "A story," Sammy replied. "Come sit and let's talk," Duke said. At a corner booth, Duke and Sammy sat down, and a waitress stopped, took Sammy's order, and hurried on her way. Duke asked, "Your story?" Sammy took out the blue envelope, passed it to him. Duke read it, furrowed his brow, and said, "Yes, that was some nasty business. Tommy was a good kid, and a real up-and-coming singer. But the main issue was getting involved with the Bones." Sammy said, "Joey Sarducci?" Duke nodded. "Joey likes to find new talent and sign them up to a contract and promote them around. Give them nice clothes, help with rent, that kind of thing. But after they get booked into places and are performing, Joey collects the paychecks, being the manager, and after expenses, the talent ends up with peanuts, and the cycle starts all over again. Nobody makes a living but Joey, and nobody gets booking without Joey's okay. And heaven forbid you try to get out of the merry-go-round because Bones likes bones. Or more to the point, he likes to break bones. So he just roughs up a few entertainers, and everybody stays in line, except for Tommy. He'd had enough and told Joey to take a flying leap. Joey blew a gasket, worked Tommy over but good. Nothing to keep him from singing, but I saw him in an arm cast a while back, and he didn't want to talk about it. All glum and forlorn, he just moped around and looked dejected. Then one day he was found floating in the river. I thought he'd just had enough and decided to just end it all. I tell you what," Duke said. "His girlfriend, Pamela Rose, and also another one of Joey's acts, is singing and dancing at the Blue Lagoon. It's a club down on 5th. You should go talk to her and get the whole story." Samantha nodded and wrote the name down and finished her lunch. The waitress brought Ralph's to-go order, and when she went to pay, Duke said, "Oh, no, this one's on me. You did so much for me and the others when we had our problem that it's nice to finally be able to pay you back a little for what you did." Sammy smiled, hugged her friend, grabbed the food, and headed back to the Tribune. When she got back, she dropped the lunch on Ralph's desk and went over what she had learned at the Marquee Club. Ralph listened, munching happily and nodding once in a while Sammy spoke. When she was finished, Ralph belched, smiled, and chucked the paper bag into the bin. "So, it sounds like the next step is going to find Pamela," he said. "We are going to go see Pamela," said Sammy. "I know the Blue Lagoon, and I'm not going there by myself. And besides, you're just like a hermit in here, and it would do you good to get out once in a while." So they made plans to meet up that evening and head downtown. Sammy headed off home to clean up and check in with her Aunt Dolly. When Sammy got there, she sat down with Dolly and had a cup of coffee. Aunt Dolly asked her, "You're home early. What's up?" Sammy went over the letter and a few of the facts of the case and said, "I've got a date with Ralph." Dolly laughed and said, "Well, good. He needs to get out, and you need someone to go with you if you're going down there. Are you taking your camera?" "Oh, yes," Sammy said. "Well, I'm taking one, the little Minox. Don't know who or what we might see, and I'll need proof if something happens." After coffee, Sammy called the coroner and found out that Tommy indeed had fresh, healed fractures of the arm and a couple of fingers. Sammy winced, imagining the pain, and then asked about the drowning. Well, he did drown, but the bruises and scrapes leads me to believe he was severely beaten first and most likely thrown over the bridge into the river. I have no concrete proof. There was rust on the back of his clothes that indicates he didn't just jump on his own. But I have no real proof that he didn't. Sammy thanked him, hung up, and went, showered, redressed, and took a taxi over to Ralph's place. She knocked on the door and was met by a freshly shaved and spiffed up Ralph. Sammy smiled, complimented Ralph on his attire, then hooked her arm in his and explained excitedly, "Let's go!" And that ends Chapter 2. Hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to comment, rate, subscribe, and tune in for Chapter 3. This is Radio Static Productions, and now ends our broadcast day.